Recently, I put together a few videos and spent way too much time dealing with redeemed Zoomers' all atheist arguments answered. Wasn't that a good time, y'all? I had fun. And I got to thinking about why atheists are using these arguments in the first place, and whose arguments these are anyway. So let's talk about why atheists are bringing forward arguments and whose arguments they even are. Hi, my name is Scarlett, and I'm an atheist and skeptic. And yeah, atheist arguments. What is the deal? It is true that atheists speak up on blogs and here on the old YouTubes about why they reject various theistic claims from different religious blabbers. But are their arguments exclusive to them? Spoiler alert, no. Do you even know Betteridge's law of headlines? But I jest. Let's take a step back. Why even am atheists? It's funny, you can see some preachers laugh that atheists even exist at all. Why do atheists speak up about their lack of belief? Because LOL, if they're entertaining theistic claims, even as a hypothetical, they must believe at least something. Ha ha ha, gotcha atheist. Yeah, it's dumb. Or why dumb atheists talk about their lack of belief? Must prove Paul's point that they believe after all. Ha ha, good one. Look, atheists only exist because theists exist. Atheism is a reaction to a positive belief. If there were no theists, there would be no atheists. Let's entertain a hypothetical, an alternate universe where no one believes in God, but the beings there believe in clang, a force like gravity that drives time forward. And let's say there was no evidence for clang, but the beings claim it exists and has some impact in their universe. And let's imagine that a subset of these beings didn't see any good reason to believe that time needed a force to drive it forward, and they became aclangists. Now, we don't have anything like that in our universe, so no one has anything to say about clang. It's just simply not a thing. And in their universe, there are no atheists because no one is talking about it. So we wouldn't even be here talking about it because there would be no thing that we would know about. Atheists only exist because there are a number of people, both historically and at present, that claim a God or gods exist, and we should believe in him, it, them, her, pick your pronoun, and worship and follow rules that they think that the God wants us to follow, and on and on. Some of these theists actually have a mandate to convert new people to their religion. Hashtag not all Christians. But there is actually the Great Commission in Christianity to evangelize. And so while some Christians like to pretend they're all sitting at home praying in private, you will in fact see all kinds of Christians out proselytizing. Some of them are loud and some are aggressive. Some have mics and speakers and bother passersby on streets. Some are on college campuses yelling about fire and brimstone. Some come to your door to talk to you, or they just leave pamphlets on your doorstep. I cannot tell you the number of preachers I've seen yelling at college students at various campuses. There's often a small group of people gathered, and sometimes people interact. By the way, if you have a crazy preacher story, please share it with us in the comments. I would love to hear it. And then, of course, there are all the elected officials and petty bureaucrats who want to use their position of power to impose something about their beliefs that they attribute to their God onto others, interfering with other people's lives in business that shouldn't concern anyone, much less the government. Now, the atheists you hear in particular that speak out might do so for a number of reasons. One, they themselves deconverted from some religion and want to share their story, normalizing the position of atheism, or even giving hope to another person who has doubts and is in the process of deconverting. By the way, sometimes Christians think that you shouldn't do that because it's dangerous and people might leave this faith and then not get saved and all that kind of stuff. But, that's like your opinion, man. Number two, atheists want to show the flaws in the reasons people say they believe. Like, if you're going to believe, at least do so for good reasons. Number three, atheists see the way religious beliefs are leveraged to harm others, and we want it to stop. Four, these atheists are scientists or science educators, making sure that the correct information about science remains in places where people might want to seek it out. And some other atheists have their own reasons for exploring various topics. It's always good to ask why someone is sharing their beliefs. All right, So that's why atheists are talking. We got Christian blabbers in my culture, and then there are also Muslim blabbers, and there are all kinds of blabbers of all kinds believing in all kinds of deities, and we're talking out against that. Or at least participating in this wonderful exchange of ideas known as the interwebs. So what about the arguments? My question is, are there arguments that are unique to atheism besides, I do not see any evidence convincing me enough to get me to believe in a deity or deities? And by the way, if you think there is one, please put that in the comments below. We'll talk about that in a future video. But what I see happening is a lot of atheists are also skeptics. And a skeptic isn't someone who just doubts things willy-nilly. A skeptic is someone who makes their best attempt to get the best information to make a determination about a claim. You don't just sit there in a void saying, what do I think in the privacy of my brain? So who best to go to than experts who spend their lives doing something to get the best information? And it is best to seek out peer-reviewed ideas and professional consensus. Atheists who are skeptics need to go to other domains to seek out answers to their questions. Apologists have a simple solution to everything. God done it. And sin explains anything bad. Done and done. Very simple. Don't need really to explain much. And you can just be an ignoramus and say that. Anyway, but let's go see where to go to find some answers. So I'm going to be mainly dealing with Christian arguments here because that's what's in my culture, but you can find other things. It's just these are the biggest things that happen in the Western world, in the United States in particular. So some of the arguments that come from Christians concern scientific theories. After all, God is said to have been the creator of everything. So God done the Big Bang. God created life. Evolution is thanks to God. Or maybe, the Christian actually believes in literal Genesis and thinks that's the way things happen. Now, when atheists propose answers to these Christian statements on all of these scientific things, they're going to go to science. And science really isn't atheistic. There have been and still are religious people who are scientists. Science is more properly understood as secular, which is about attitudes or ideas with no religious or spiritual basis. Science could actually test for the effects of the supernatural on our world or try to find evidence for God, if this God has any interaction with our world. And sometimes science does that. There have been studies on prayer, for example. Redeemed Zoomer also had some arguments that specifically came from psychology, a soft science, if you will. Again, not particularly atheistic, but secular. In reality, these domains study what we can know and test theories for real-world application. You could be a Christian or a Muslim or anything. Now, some of the claims are about the validity of a holy book. And well, first of all, it's just a book. It's funny to me how many people turn to works of fiction to demonstrate something real. And while I think literature is a great way to understand other ways of being, we have to tread carefully, even when books are memoirs or autobiographies. These always are the works of humans, fallible humans, and human bias can be at work here. So you don't just accept a claim because it's in a book. And it's important to make this tangent here to say that it is not the books that make science valid. I mean, of course, I read the work of scientists, often in tertiary sources like Scientific American, but the written word is only the expression of what scientists have discovered. I mean, we have to communicate it somehow. The true elements of books should be able to be seen in the real world. But anyway, if you want to understand more about the Bible, like what we know about manuscripts, what we know about how the books were selected to go into the Bible, and so on, you have to read biblical scholars. Again, not an atheistic source. There are plenty of Christians who study the Bible and who are honest about it. There aren't just apologists. And really, any other religion could find issues with the Christian texts, not just atheists, just like Christians find issues with the Quran or other holy texts if they even bother to notice them. As for historical claims, we look at the work of historians, including history of the time of Jesus, for what's going on. Some arguments are just facts. I mean, there are contradictions in the Bible that Christians have to find an explanation for. They have to find an apologetic for it. Religion has been a reason that people have gone to war, and sometimes religion just bolstered the rest of the war effort that was otherwise for things like expansion of land and resources and power and all that. Another just fact, people tend to be born into a religion, and while they might denomination shop, they tend to remain in that religion. So there's a geographical reason for why they believe what they believe. Which makes me wonder, have they ever even really tested their beliefs? And see, for me, this is the important thing. As somebody who considers herself a skeptic, I am interested in having correct beliefs. And how do you do that? You have to try to prove your belief wrong. It's not enough to go looking for confirmation of your belief, which is an easy thing to do. Just go find stuff that agrees with you. You have to actually try to prove yourself wrong. So ask yourself this question. Have you only gone out looking for evidence to support your belief? Or are you on purpose looking for disconfirmation, evidence that you are, in fact, wrong? And I will say, I see a lot of atheist shows that are like this. The Atheist Experience was one that started this. Tell us what you believe and why, and we'll have a discussion about it. I think it's an important thing for everybody to do. But I will reiterate, atheists making arguments against theists, or Christians in particular, are responding to claims in the environment. For Christians, their religion offers explanation for everything, and their Bible is an important text to prove it. And they have a whole bag of apologetics and philosophers that have thought about this to try to explain away and smooth over all of the difficult spots. Atheists do not have a text, and they do not have a bag of arguments. We have to go to other domains that specialize in the area in question. And that means these are not exclusively atheist arguments, but arguments for anyone and everyone interested in the truth. What are your thoughts on this? Please put them in the comments below, and while you're down there, you can like and subscribe and do all the YouTube stuff. We love when you do the YouTube stuff. Pour out those YouTube libations to the YouTube algorithm. Algorithm be praised. And if you like what I do, you can buy me a coffee. That link is also in the description below, and I will see you in the next one for something that is not directly Redeemed Zoomer. I promise. See you then.